Hello and welcome to another mesmerising episode of Are You There, Dog? It's me, Kerry. Podcast brought to you by me, Kerry, from Howl School for Dogs. And I'm a dog trainer normally I work in London. I've spent a couple of years in the north, but I'm on my way back to London in the next month or so. So that will be fun. But yeah, my ethos, if you haven't come across me before on social media or in person, is that I want to work with a dog and understand what's going on with them in order to help them. I'm not interested in old-fashioned notions of obedience or using punishment or fear or force to stop a behaviour. I'd rather question why that behaviour is happening and is there an unmet need. Not necessarily the fault of the dog's guardian, but often there is an unmet need, and I think it's fun to be a detective and work out what is going on. So if you do follow me on Instagram, you'll know that as well as talking about general tips and advice, I also really like to berate very, very large Instagram accounts with huge followings that share hideous videos of dogs being put into uncomfortable situations where everyone is then laughing at them, because it's the only way that I can find that I can actually deal with it. Otherwise I'd find it all really, really, really depressing and bleak. But at least with the dog ones, I feel that I have a strong enough education that I can unpick what is going on and help people to understand what's going on, and to choose not to laugh at it and instead see actually how unfair it is for the dog. So I was sent a video this week, and actually I'd seen it before and I'd forgotten that it existed, and it's a video of a golden retriever dressed up as, I think, Snow White, waiting patiently for somebody dressed up in a costume. Again, I can't remember, I think it's Tigger, big kind of 7-foot costume of Tigger, to come over and cuddle him. And it says, this dog is meeting their hero. And a lot of people are sharing it and saying, this is gonna make your day. This is gonna be some good eye bleach for you after seeing all the horrors of what's going on in the world. I was like, what? This is awful. So let's really think about this. Do we think that a dog has any idea of what a film is, or what a TV show is, or what a book is? No. So therefore, they don't know what characters are. So therefore, they don't have a favourite one. But let's suppose they did. Do you think then that they would be able to recognise that two-dimensional thing on the screen is the same as that person dressed up as that person, as that character, coming towards them in a menacing way to hug them? Do you think that they would make that connection? No. So we've got a dog that isn't aware of the character in the first place, and then in a situation where this terrifying creature, they don't know what it is. Now, bear in mind, they've got limited eyesight, so it's currently believed that they can see blues and yellows, but everything is really kind of gradients of grey and silhouettes. So we've got this terrifying silhouette that kind of smells like a human but looks unlike any human they've met before, coming towards them to then cuddle them. Do we think that this golden retriever is really having the time of their life? Now, people think they are because they've got their mouth open, they look like they're smiling and their tongue is hanging out, but actually that golden retriever is panting, and panting can be a stress signal. So yeah, it's a horrible video. Now, Norma's my dog. I'll reference her from time to time. Norma, would you like to meet your favourite character? If Norma just looked at me as if to say, I have no idea what you're talking about, but thank you for involving me in the conversation. Thank you. No. But do you know what Norma would really like to be doing? Norma likes rolling in duck shit. Oh, she can't get enough of rolling in duck shit. And then she loves to walk around with that stench just enveloping her. And oh, it's just heavenly for her. So that's something she likes. What else does Norma like doing? Norma likes when we happen upon a compost heap, because there's often rats in there, so she likes to climb on a compost heap and see if any rats come out. That's what she likes. What else does she like? She likes to stop and sniff a bin. She thinks that's great fun, really interesting. So yeah, there are a few things that Norma likes doing, and they're the kind of things that I generally, I allow her to do. I mean, I don't love it when she rolls in duck shit, I'll be honest, but I just think, well, enjoy yourself because you will be having a bath later. But yeah, but if I want to give her things to do that she likes, I give her things to rip up. I give her things to sniff. I give her things to chew. I give her things to search and to find. Don't take her to a theme park and have some scary monster come to her and cuddle her. So yeah, so that's that dealt with. So yeah, be aware of these viral videos. Quite often you'll see the dog not actually having as good a time as they are reported to be having. And little clues that they're not enjoying themselves will be they might be exhibiting some of these stress signals. They might have whale eye, which is when they move their eyes to the side, sorry. So it looks like kind of side eye. But that's a communication from them that I need you to move away. They might do a shake off. They might be panting. They might have what we call spatula tongue, where their tongue is sticking right out in a kind of very extended way and they're panting. They might be yawning when they're not tired. They might be squinting their eyes. They might be, sorry, you might hear some digging in the background. That's because Norma's digging into a cushion before she settles down for a snooze. Yeah, they might be lip licking. They might be frozen. They might be turning their head away. They might be turning their entire body away. And they might be doing what you see so often in videos when there is a child in the face of a dog. They might be offering appeasement gestures, such as licking the child's face or pawing at them or even rolling over on their back in a way that suggests they want a tummy tickle. But actually it's them saying, please leave me alone. You'll know the difference between them doing a roll over on their back and them actually wanting a tummy tickle, because when they are feeling threatened, their ears are back. They'll often have their tail between their legs in a protective way. And it's kind of like they're almost on their side a bit as they roll over. Yeah, and so often people think that lick on the child's face is a kiss. And so instead of what they should be doing is removing the child away or removing the dog, giving them both space from each other, they misinterpret that as a really good thing. And then the dog's like, well, I gave you all my more subtle stress signals, so now I'm going to bite. Now they might, if you're lucky, do a growl before that. But God, so many dogs I discover are not allowed to growl. They get told off when they growl, which is madness, because that's them communicating, human, I don't like this. And if they can't do that, they will skip that and they will go for a bite. And that's what happens so often. So yeah, how often have you heard of a dog that has bitten a child and then been euthanized? You hear it all the time. And whenever I hear it, I think, I bet that dog was given loads of stress signals prior to that bite that had been ignored, and they were left feeling they had no choice but to do that. And so they paid with their life because the human didn't know any better. And that's often because they are seeing these bullshit videos that are shared by huge influencer accounts online that don't know any better, or they are given terrible advice by professionals. I mean, I had a recent very interesting exchange with a dog walker on social media who referred to dogs that growl as ignorant cunts. Sorry for dropping the C-bomb there, but that is what he said. And we're all grown ups, we can all cope with it. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, they shouldn't ever be allowed to growl. And I thought, this is somebody who is walking people's dogs, and a lot of people will be, unfortunately, listening to him because he's one of those morons that talks with a lot of confidence. You know, what's that? The Dunning-Kruger syndrome or whatever, whereby the less informed you are, the more you speak with confidence about that subject. I like it when people say they don't know the answer to something, and I do that a lot. You know, for example, when people talk to me about neutering, I will always say, listen, this is something you need to go away and research. I don't have the answers for you. I can't comment on this. One thing I will always let people know is that there is research that suggests that dogs that have a more fearful or nervous disposition can sometimes be made worse if they are neutered. For some dogs it helps, some dogs it makes no difference whatsoever. But the point is, I'm not an expert on that, so I'll happily ask people to go and seek that advice elsewhere. It amazes me how often people are given advice by people on that subject from people that are completely ill-informed. For example, there was a doggy daycare account that was advising people that if their dogs were humping at their doggy daycare, that they should be neutered if they weren't already, which is amazing because what that doggy daycare person is unaware of, presumably, is that humping doesn't just happen because a dog wants to have sex. Humping happens because a dog is stressed out or overexcited or bored or in pain, or it just feels nice. There can be loads of reasons, and 9 times out of 10 I would imagine it's because a dog is over threshold emotionally at these daycare environments, and actually needs space, needs time to get away from the dogs, needs time to relax, needs time to calm down. Possibly it's not the right environment for them, but certainly a member of staff running a daycare has no place advising people to do something as permanent and bold as neutering. That's what I think anyway. So yeah, what else has been happening this week? So I worked with a lovely client this week, and speaking of getting bad information online, they said to me, what do I think about this guy with a very big following on social media who says that when a dog is reacting to dogs or strangers, that you should first of all, you should put a slip lead on them, and then you should always pull upwards and never backwards. Then I said to her, well, I know exactly who you're talking about, and I don't respect anything that person says. First of all, I wouldn't use a slip lead anyway. Slip leads are designed for like in an emergency situation, or possibly with gun dogs, but in that kind of just quickly put it on and take it off environment. It's not meant to be used to be choking a dog, so I don't go near them. I always carry one with me in case I find a lost dog, or a dog approaches my dog and their human is nowhere to be seen, and I want to, maybe put that on them and lead them away. But I've never had to use it, but I always have it with me. But I certainly would never use it as a day-to-day bit of equipment for my dog. I've never used it on my dog, and I wouldn't. But yeah, what makes me laugh / vomit about this advice that this dude says is, he says, it's like when the bloke is in a pub and he's having a punch up with somebody. You want to, if you try and pull them back, they're going to just lunge forward. So you want to pull the slip lead right up. What? Okay, so what is in this analogy, what is the equivalent in this scenario of pulling the slip lead up on this bloke? Because I think in this analogy, what we should be doing is removing this drunk man, I'm assuming he's drunk, from the situation, and giving him an opportunity to calm down. I don't think that hurting him in that situation is going to help him, because that would be the equivalent, wouldn't it? Should we strangle this man in this situation so that he fears for his life for a second? No. What would be better would be if instead of that, this man's obviously got some issues around reactivity, doesn't know how to deal with his difficult emotions, resorts to violence. So maybe this guy would benefit from therapy. Maybe this guy would benefit from not being in that environment because perhaps it doesn't work for him. Maybe he had experienced a lot of triggers that day and had been trigger stacking, whereby there was just too many things mounting up and he just reached a point where he just snapped. Maybe he should have gone home early. Maybe he shouldn't have been drinking. Maybe he can't cope with that. Do you see what I mean? So, and it's the same thing with our dogs. We're not going to put them into situations where we are then going to need to be pulling them back anyway. Obviously, in an emergency situation, someone turns up in an environment that you weren't expecting and your dog is there and they're very close to that dog. Yes, you pull them away like you need to, definitely. But I'm not going to choke them in order to do that. And I will have rehearsed lots and lots and lots of emergency this ways so that I can get my dog away, but it still feels like they have some sort of agency in that situation. And I'll talk more about that in another episode, but that's the general thinking. It's doing a lot of prep, a lot of rehearsal in an environment where your dog feels safe and where they are not experiencing trigger stacking, so that if a situation arises, they've got half a chance in dealing with it, and so do you. But to repeatedly put a dog into the real life situation and then punish them for reacting that way is just ludicrous and sadistic. And it shows no understanding of the emotional life of a dog. One of my other clients said this week that they realised that a lot of the work that we do with our dogs is more about relationship and the bond rather than any kind of old-fashioned notions of obedience. And I said, yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly what I was trying to get you to, in the work that we've been doing together. That's what I've been kind of steering you towards kind of getting. And they did really get that. And because of that, they've got such a brilliant relationship with their dog. And things are naturally falling into place, which is great. So yeah, let's not choke our dogs. Let's definitely not do that. Let's try to help them to reduce, if they are reactive, reduce the anger that they are feeling, or the fear, rather, that they are feeling, or the discomfort or pain that they are feeling. There is a approximate statistic that approximately 80% of dogs that are reactive are in pain. And in my experience of working with dogs, I find that to be the case a lot of the time. I find that often it's pain, or it's that they've been put into a situation where they've been trigger stacking, having trigger after trigger after trigger after trigger mounting up in them till they can't cope. And they've just learned, I can't stand the sight of dogs or people or whatever it is that they are reactive to. Such as like going to like a warehouse doggy daycare environment where it's just too many dogs that don't know each other, too many people, well-meaning, lovely people working there that don't understand enough about body language or communication, or simply they're just not sleeping enough. they're just wired all day, and they're coming home, and they're either coming home and they're still kind of off their tits with a blend of cortisol and adrenaline in their system, or they're coming home and they're just like collapsing, exhausted. Um, yeah, so we don't ever want our dogs to be so off their tits that they've got the zoomies and they're racing around. We don't want them to be so exhausted they can't function. That's not what I would describe as a quality bit of socialization. Now, when I say socialization, really, I really should be talking about puppies in that respect. You know, the socialization window is really between approximately, you know, the three weeks and about 14 weeks of age. That's when they're learning about the world and you know, everything that happens in the world, and that's the socialization window. That's when they are learning to exist in this world. Anything after that really is about counter conditioning, desensitization, and yeah, it's interesting. I think it's interesting anyway. So yeah, if you take anything from these podcast episodes that I do, it's learning to think about, is the environment that I'm putting my dog into a good one for them? Is it good, or is it just something that perhaps as a human I think would be good for me? You know, someone once described to me the this metaphor of a fish that is eating really good food, is physically healthy, blah blah blah, but they're in a tank that has got filthy water, so they get ill. So environment matters. Environment makes a big difference, but also so does what you do with them as well. So don't send them to any of these morons that are going to convince you that your dog needs a firm hand, because that's just shorthand for not having an up-to-date education. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. I am going to go and have a cup of tea, and I implore you to do the same.